continue a little bit talking about this asymmetric or offbeat union idea. You know, this is a universal union that would embrace everybody out there that wants to be a part of this thing, and it'd be a nominal fee to join. You know, maybe $5 a month or something, but that the funds would go to the mainstream media, and you would present these, these commercials as public awareness, campaign. So, in other words, this is a public service for everybody, just to bring understanding to why, you want to pay your workers a living wage. And what is a living wage, and how do you measure that? Well, the way to measure it is what it costs to purchase a home in your locale, in your general area where you live and work, what it will cost. The median price is what it's termed in real estate. So what is the median price for a house there? And then once you establish what that is, you base it on 1/4 of your income. You should comfortably be able to pay for your house. So, by using golden rule standards and saying, well, what do you want? What do you want for your children? Saying, well, just because the work they do may be unskilled, it's essential work what they're doing. They work in a factory packaging food, or on a farm, or driving a truck, or working as a clerk. These are indispensable lines of work in trades. And so the fact that they're unskilled should have no bearing at all as to what the wages are. If these jobs are critical, they're critical. And, unless they're doing the job, then you or your kids got to do the job. So what I'm talking about, appealing to the public at large, is just educating them to why you don't want to subjugate people, to why you don't want to marginalize people, to help them understand what goes around comes around. That's not just a platitude. That's a matter of fact. Those are immutable laws. It's just like this. If you sow carrot seed, you're not going to get onions. You could use any analogy you want out there, but these are immutable facts. It's karmic laws. Why do people talk about these things? Because what you put out there, you're going to get back. Garbage out, garbage in. I mean, it makes it for a bad situation. And so this is how these public service announcements would come out. And again, I'd like to maybe start these with crowdfunding, but I've got a couple ideas I want to work with and devote my life to. And even if it costs my life, if I make certain elements of the establishment so, miserable, and threaten them so much by just my actions, because I'm a strictly nonviolent guy, so I believe in working within peaceful means. But, we've got to put our foot down. We've got to be firm with these people. We've got to demand justice, because they're not handing it out. And so these are a couple ideas I have. And, we get a lot of rhetoric out there about this global warming, the threat that humanity poses to, the planet and all this stuff. Well, we're hearing this. Remember, all this stuff is being generated by the same people at the top of the pyramid. They need us to believe another lie. Now that people are figuring things out, like what I'm telling you, that social economic injustice is not just a happenstance. This is created, it's manufactured, it's artificial. And that, we don't need it anymore. If there's plenty of stuff, you see, it's not really the money we're after the stuff. We're after the stuff that money will buy us. So if there's plenty of stuff, it stands to reason that we should all have a right to share in that stuff, unless there's a very good reason why we shouldn't. In other words, it's like supply and demand is like, if there's a famine in the land, then we all get it. We all understand, wow, there's distinct shortages, and so the price for this thing got more dear, so we got to pay more. But, that's what these people are doing. And, simple things that could save, millions of gallons of gasoline in California, these people don't ever talk about. For instance, if we lower the speed limit to 55, 60, of course people aren't going to drive that, but a lot of people will. Just doing that in California, since we use some 30 million gallons of gasoline a day approximately, then, that would reduce our use by, a few million gallons of gas less burned in California if we just took that one simple step. Not to mention the lives that would be saved through driving slower. And that brings me back to this whole idea of job creation. I said, let's focus on making this world a better place for everybody. Let's create, you know, goods and services that benefit humanity at large. Because it's not just, it's not just the pedestrian that's going to benefit from having walkovers instead of a crosswalk where they got to cross right in front of the automobiles. And, they put these crosswalks in the worst places. You ever notice that? It's like, oh my God, what do they think of putting a crosswalk there? I mean, as soon as I see that there's a person in it, I'm already on top of the crosswalk. So there's all this ridiculous crap out there keeping the public from being safe. We could create jobs that would make people safe. But remember, it's to benefit the driver because, you don't want to hit a pedestrian. You want to live with maiming or killing a pedestrian, even if it's not your fault. Even if the pedestrian was jaywalking, you don't want to live with that. But if they're in a crosswalk, that's a little more serious. Then we're talking about involuntary manslaughter, I think would be the charge if you hit somebody in a crosswalk. So it's all very serious. And another thing, we've got to look at the way the general plan is laid out in cities. We say, we got all these issues with parking. Well, we don't need to have all those issues with parking. We could have parking garages all over the place with tons of extra parking spaces for everybody. So, the whole idea that we even need to use city streets for parking is made up. All this stuff is made up. I mean, we trust the city council and the supervisors and, the governors and the assembly and all these senators and Congress, whether it's state or federal. And these are bumbling idiots, a lot of them. Okay? And the ones that are decent and smart, well, they're shut down. They're silenced because remember, the establishment doesn't want solutions. If you start solving problems, you're stepping on people's toes who are vested in those problems being maintained. It's really very simple, and it sounds so cynical, but it isn't. Okay? And if you study it long and hard like I have, you'll see that it's really true. I mean, if you just ended poverty, just think of the problems you'd cause for other people that are vested in poverty through debt. Okay, all those people that have nations in debt and individuals in debt, that's their bread and butter, that debt being maintained, sustained, and hopefully proliferated. Okay, the same with crime. Anybody that's involved in the criminal injustice system, okay, all those jobs, think of all those toes you're stepping on because crime would plummet if you ended poverty. Same with war. And the same with diseases. You look at all the conflict of interest in solving a disease. Okay, the same with dirty fuel. Is it in the oil company's interest? I mean, it doesn't take a large brain to figure this stuff out. No, if your job is producing dirty fuel, the last thing you want is some clown developing clean, renewable, plentiful fuel. You don't want that. That's your competitor. You want to silence him. And that's often the case, that's why so much of this stuff is suppressed, because they'll buy up these ideas, and who won't sell out, they'll kill. Like Stan Meyer, who invented the car that can go 100 miles on a gallon of gas. And then these things just get shelved at the patent office. There again, I mean, if we solved our financial issues, if we just ended poverty and everybody was living in safety and security, all those current innovations that we can't even take advantage of now because of money, then, they'd all be released. So there's all these solutions, folks, to every problem. Let's look at the traffic. Okay, have you ever considered the idea that if they just staggered the time people started their jobs, let's say you got an office complex and it's got, 1,000 or 5,000 workers. Now, if you just broke it up and say everybody's going to start, 5 minutes different from others, right there. You understand? Not all these people getting to work at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 6 a.m., whatever the case may be, they're getting there now at 8:05, 8:10, 8:20, 8:15, on and on. You get what I'm saying? So just staggering it. And also, we could design the highways to where you didn't have this stop and go problem. Like if anybody that's ever driven through LA, I mean, it's just hell. I don't care what time of day you drive through LA, you're going to hit traffic on the main freeways. So here's what you do. You've got to have monitors set up to show the people, instead of this, you're speeding at 70, 80 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden the traffic comes to a stop, everybody's slamming their brakes on. That show people, monitors that can show people recommended speed, unless you're an idiot, is 45 now. So people that are going, 75, they say, well, you're going to look awfully stupid when the bulk of the traffic, because most people want the traffic just to keep flowing. They don't want stop and go, where there's a chance of some guy rear-ending somebody else. Oh, I didn't see it coming, slam into the traffic to stop traffic. Or, you're just using up your brakes. You're using up your gas. You're using up your motor. Your nerves. The stress level would be reduced if you could just slow the traffic down. What, am I smarter than everybody else? Or is it just that the solutions are there, but there's these elements that don't want the solutions? Is it good for your auto body shop, okay, if suddenly there was less traffic accidents? Well, no, that's his business. That's his bread and butter. Even death. You take about the death industrial complex. Okay, not long ago I had to take care of my dad, and it's like, now if you took away death, just think all the people whose business is death, through the funeral industry, through cremation, burials, and all the other, offshoots that are vested in this business. You took away death, well, they're out of business. So it's not good for them to take away death. I just want to point out the absurdity of everything, why the problems don't go away, and why they've gotten you to believe the earth is overpopulated. Because as long as you can believe that, then you'll say, well, okay, I get the austerity now, because austerity causes death. People lose their will to live, so the suicides go up. I just saw a shocking video yesterday, this guy committing suicide by cop. I mean, this stuff goes on. It's a matter of fact. Even recently with the Robin Williams suicide, if it wasn't contrived, if it wasn't actually a murder made to look like a suicide, which is what some people are speculating now, nothing would surprise me anymore. But, the idea that he was using these pills that are actually, will tell you, they induce, suicidal thoughts and whatnot, these legal antidepressant drugs, SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor drugs for people that are, chronically depressed and whatnot. So, this could have been the case that, but, it was actually pointed out that Robin Williams was having financial trouble. Here's a guy that's got to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars probably, and he's worried about his money. He's insecure living in this world. Or maybe he was just so miserable looking around him and, feeling like, this doesn't make sense. I mean, he just spun out. It could be that he just went crazy. But, he couldn't cope with, other people's poverty, because he was, from what I'm hearing, he was a decent human being. I mean, he was a philanthropic kind of guy. He was, actively supporting the Glide Memorial Church in San Francisco, and everybody knows they take care of a lot of the downtrodden, the really poor indigent people out there. They're non-exclusive, which I really admire, because I'm against exclusivity. That we've got to embrace everybody. Don't judge them, embrace them. Doesn't matter that they're drunks or drug addicts, if you think they're lazy, whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. You've got to love them. That's the only job God has given us, is to love one another, not to judge people. Give them guidance, give them accurate information, accurate education. And that's what I'd like to devote my life to doing. And I kind of really want to separate what I do for humanity is what I'm doing for God from what I do for survival. And so it's really kind of nice to do what I do, that's what I feel is most important, like making these videos and trying to just help other people to understand what God has put it in my heart to understand, and to share that with others, because, love isn't something you keep. Knowledge isn't something you keep to yourself. These are things you got to give away for them to be useful, for them to really be pertinent, and, to be appreciated and realized in your own life, to bring you the joy and comfort and encouragement, that you're trying to give out to others. You've got to share it in order to get it back. And, and those things are really, really, really important. But it's nice to say, if I can do something else for my financial well-being, I'd rather. Because what's most important to me is to see that everybody is financially well off. That's really what I want. I really do. That will make me happy. just to know that I know when I look anywhere on this planet, I want to know that nobody is being